beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, Carol. Thank you so much. Oh, my turn. It comes up so fast. So, Reverend Gary asked me to speak for him well over a month ago. And when he asked me, we were all out to dinner. I was sitting on the patio, sipping a part of Megan's margarita, because I don't drink when I'm driving. And he said, hey, I'm going to be taking my mom back to Denver. Can you speak for me that Sunday? And I said, yeah, sure. And I remember I was sitting next to Deb Thomas at the time, and I thought, oh, I've got this great talk. This is a perfect time to do it. And I even, a couple of weeks later, talked to Carol and said, Carol, this is the music I want to do that day. She said, great. And then on New Year's Day, my sweet daughter, Megan, our daughter, starts sending text messages to some friends and family and whatnot. And as she's sending these text messages, I haven't gotten it yet. And a few minutes later, our friend Wendy in San Diego sends me a text saying, oh, I can see your talk now. So I said, Megan, what did you send? Many of you have already seen this on Facebook. This is what Megan was attaching and sending to everybody. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it's measurements, months and weeks and days and hours and then minutes. And I saw that 525,600 minutes, and it rang, a little earworm started. And I thought, wow, there is a talk in there. How do you measure a year? So I got to thinking about that. How do you measure a year? Well, I don't know about you, but at the end of every year, I don't care what I put on the television, whatever network I'm watching, somewhere in there is a year in review. Whether it's CNN or ABC or CBS, you get the year in review, and they go through all the events that happened in that year, 2024. And it was a very event-filled year for all of us. Between the election and all the things that are going on, the wars in the world, and just, that retrospective becomes just overwhelming, bombarding you. And then on top of that, they then go back and honor all the people, notable celebrities or whatever, that passed and made their transition during that year. And during that period of time, it causes me to become somewhat retrospective. And it's almost like I'm in my car and I put it in reverse and I start just driving slowly backwards as I look and see all the things that happened in the last year. And I think about the people that we've lost, whether they've made their transition and passed on, or a relationship that ended. And I think about that and thought, reminds me of something that a minister once told me, with your people are in your life for a reason, season, or lifetime. And so I think about that and think, well, what was the reason? Was it just a season, or was it a lifetime? Because I'll carry them on my heart forever. And at that moment, I take a minute, and I'm very thankful that I had those people in my life. And maybe it's an event, whether it was a success that was achieved or a failure. And I think about it and go, I've got to be thankful for the opportunities that were afforded me and the lessons that I learned and the blessings I got from that. And sometimes I sit back in that for a little bit longer than I should. And what happens is, instead of being retrospective and remembering what was going on, I go into that woulda, shoulda, coulda. Anybody ever done that? Oh, the woulda, shoulda, coulda. Oh, I would have done that differently if I'd had an opportunity. I should have been a little kinder. I should have said something different. I could have taken advantage of that opportunity, but it passed me by. And then you realize you're just sitting there. And then it's time to get out of reverse and maybe shift to idle and shift into neutral and idle for a little while. And so that's what you do. And we've done that here at the center. When on New Year's Eve, Reverend Gary had the burning bowl ceremony. We're kind of been neutral, saying, okay, what are the obstacles? What are those things that have been restricting me? What have been my limitations? What is that crap that I need to release and let go of? Because it's standing in my way, standing in the way of my highest good. And so symbolically, we write those down on a paper, we put them in the burn and watch them go up in smoke. And hopefully that symbolic gesture sits in your heart, and you truly do let go of those things that were limiting you. Let go of the things that were no longer serving you or serving those around you. And then last week we did the Whitestone ceremony. And I love that. We've been doing something similar to Whitestone with our friend Wendy for years. Wendy would call us and say, what's your new word for the year? And then she'd tell us what our word was from the last year. Wendy's been doing this with us probably 15 years. I think she sent me mine going back as far as 2010. So at least 15 years we've been doing this with her. So the Whitestone ceremony is something very much like that. And as we idle, we sit in a meditation, in a meditative state, and we allow that still small voice to speak to us. We allow God to come through and say, what is it that you really want? What is on your heart that you want this year? What attribute do you want to bring forward? What type of difference do you want to make in this new year? Now, I'm going to share with you, I wrote the word patience. Connie will attest to this, and so will Megan. I am the most impatient person you will ever meet. I want it now. I want it done right. I don't want to have to show you 2 times. I want it right now. And I can be obstinate about it. I know you find that hard to believe, but I can be a pain in the keister on it. And I realized that I need to be more patient. So I decided that was going to be my word for the year, and that's what I wrote on my rock. Now, maybe I'll master that next month. I doubt it. But maybe in March, that doesn't resonate with me anymore. Did Reverend Gary ever say that that's the word you have to stick with all year long, whether it works or not? Has God ever said to you, it's etched in concrete, there's no deviance from that? Maybe the 10 Commandments. I don't know. I'm not going that far back. But there's nothing that says you can't redo what you need. Or I had to say, push the button and reset. There's no reason why you can't push the button and reset. Now, I asked Megan's permission for this. Megan's word was kaleidoscope. And I thought, wow, kaleidoscope. We had a little time. We had to Google how to spell it properly. But she wrote kaleidoscope on her word. And I was thinking about it. Any word that anybody wrote on that stone, I will almost guarantee you 100% is going to come back to love. Why do I want to have patience this year? Because it just sounded like something fun to do? Not really, not for me. But because I love people who want me to be more patient. And the way I'm going to be showing that love is by exhibiting more patience in what I do. Megan's love, kaleidoscope. I had to think about this. How does a kaleidoscope come back to love? Well, she picked kaleidoscope, and I found this fascinating. Because when you look through a kaleidoscope, there is an unlimited number of possibilities there. And that's why she picked it, because she sees it as unlimited opportunities in her life. Now, how does that relate back to love? Well, if you don't love life, if you don't love yourself, you don't care about opportunities. So any word that you picked, I will almost guarantee you, if you think about it, it's going to come back to love. It's going to come back to love, and that's where it comes from. That's where it comes from. So we've been idling for a little bit here, right? It's time to put the car in drive. It's time to drive forward. Now, I was doing my research on this, and I love this quote from Ecclesiastes 3, verse 1. There is a time for everything and a season for every activity under heaven. So, what is the time and the season we're in right now? Anybody know? Winter? Well, I really did a lot of thinking on this and soul searching on this, and I'll tell you what I think we're in. I think we're in now. We're in the now, because right now is where I am. And it doesn't matter if it's 50 degrees out or 20 degrees out or 100 degrees out, I am always in the now. Excuse me, I'm always in the now, because that's all I've got. I can sit back, I can go back and retrospectively look at 2024 and all the things that happened, all the things I did or didn't do. Can I make any difference in that whatsoever? Absolutely not. But I can make a difference now, because the now is what really, really counts. Eckhart Tolle said this: time isn't precious at all, because it's an illusion. What you perceive as precious is not time, but the one point out of time, the now. That is precious indeed, the most precious thing there is. And to put a punctuation mark on that, Wayne Dyer says, present moment living, getting in touch with your now, is at the heart of effective living. When you think about it, there is really no other moment you can live but the now. So how do we measure that? Do we go back? Are we going to measure this year by waiting until the end of 2025? We'll wait another 11 and a half months and say, oh, let's see, what did I do that year? This is what I said I was going to. I was going to be patient. No, I was a pain in the butt. I yelled at everybody. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to measure it now. I'm going to measure it right now because now is all that really matters. And here's the thing. What I do today and what I say today may not be the same thing I do or say on Wednesday, let's say. Do I need to go back and say, oh, wow, I really screwed up? And then just go into funk for a couple of days because I didn't do what I wanted? No. Remember I told you? Hit that reset button, right? Hit the reset button. Acknowledge what you did or didn't do. Take ownership of that. We have to. Because if you don't, then it's for naught. So if I'm extremely impatient with Connie or Megan, I need to go back and say, well, I'm really sorry. I'm really trying. I fell short. And I'm going to do better. I promise I'm going to do better. And then take that to heart. Take that to heart. Do better with what you're doing. Look at it and say, okay, it's time for me to do better on that. So how do we measure that? Well, I think, as I said, those white stone rocks, everything that we wrote on that emanates from a place of love. Everything comes from that season of love. Now is the time for love. Now is the season of love, of being forgiving, of forgiving yourself, of being open to possibilities, letting go of the limitations. Now is that time. So I don't know how many of you know, but I'm a little bit of a numbers geek. So, and the slide I showed you with Megan, it's 525,600 minutes, right? As of noon today, we have 509,040 minutes left in this year. Now, are we going to measure them in minutes? Are we going to measure them in days? Are we going to measure them in weeks or months? Are we going to just wait until we get to the end of the year and then look back and become retrospective? We were retrospective about what happened last year. We were introspective about what we wanted to see going forward. But now we need to be prospective and look forward to what we're doing. We need to take action. You need to take that word, that rock, and put it somewhere that's important to you. Put it somewhere you'll see it, in your pocket, in the bathroom, by the mirror. Somewhere where it reminds you all the time. And you know what? If it doesn't work for you next week or next month, those little rocks have multiple sides. Turn it over, write a new word. Turn on the little side. Draw a little picture on the end. Whatever you need to do to remind yourself of how you want to show up in this year. Because all of this is part of our spiritual journey. That's all this is really amounting to, is what we're doing on our spiritual journeys. And that's what we are. We're all on a spiritual journey, taking one foot after the other, moving forward. At least that's what we need to do. We need to move forward on these journeys. And in order to do that, we come together like this, and we worship together, and we share, and we help each other along on that spiritual journey. So as part of that, as your exploration, I want you to remember, hit your reset button for a new day whenever you need to. Sometimes I think I'm going to be hitting it a couple of times a day because that's part of my human experience, right? We all have that human experience, which sometimes is a little sucky, but it's what we're going through. You know, the thing that anybody know what separates us from Jesus? Because there is a little bit of a separation from us and Jesus that sets us, not separation, it sets us apart. The distinguishing factor. Perfection. We are all divine beings having a human experience. And what happened with Jesus is he elevated to the point where he could accept and acknowledge and embody his perfection. We struggle with that. We struggle with that a lot. But it doesn't mean that it's not there, and it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It just means we need to work a little harder sometimes to get to that point. So don't be afraid to hit that reset button and let go of your limitations. If there's still some sitting on you or something came up after the burning bowl ceremony, write it down and rip it up and throw it in the trash. Release it. Do whatever you need to do to let go of those limitations and restrictions to allow yourself to be. Remembering who you are and whose you are, because we are all children of God. And then be willing to fail and still move on. Now, I don't even know why I wrote fail, because I really strongly dislike the word fail. It's a shortcoming, it's a shortfall. So if you fall short of your goal, if you take a misstep, if you need a little course correction, go ahead and make that, but keep moving forward. Keep moving forward, because that's all we need to do is to keep moving forward. And if you do that, if you continue to do that, I will almost guarantee you that you will know how to measure the year. Thank you.